to the main event, Cardinals Rewind. I am Jason Carter along with Steve McCullum. Putting out a special podcast for those of you out in Arizona as we get ready for the 2019 football season, Steve.
Absolutely. So bigger, exciting times out here in Arizona with Kyler Murray starting here his professional career. Cliff Kingsbury here as the head coach. Figured now would be a perfect time to break out a special podcast after every game with a rewind, our opinions, what we thought, and because we have differing football opinions, I thought it'd be good.
Yes, we do have differing football opinions. As we record this, it is Friday, so happy birthday, Cliff Kingsbury.
40.
His birthday is today. Wow, 40?
When you're 42
and you look that good,
and your head coach turns 40 of your football team, it's depressing.
And he looks the way he looks.
And I look the way I look.
Exactly. Yeah, it could be a little depressing. But what wasn't depressing last night, Cardinals walked away with a W. So that was good, even though it doesn't matter. It's still always good to get a win. If you're a rookie starting quarterback and a rookie head coach.
Yeah, I mean, that's the exciting thing about it, right, is after last year's 3-and-whatever debacle, where their offense just was awful, head coach was awful, couldn't make decisions, etc. Like I said, everybody in town has been all preseason. We talked about it on the regular main event podcast where you went out to a practice. I have not been to any practices, and we talked about why I didn't want to go because I didn't want to get overhyped like everybody seems to be doing.
I was surprised you were at the game last night, to be honest with you. I saw the video. I was like, is he at a game? What? He's at game one of the preseason? No way.
I wanted to see what it was with my own eyes because I've heard all the talk. I've seen the news. I've heard the overhypement, and I don't believe it. So
shout out real quick to everybody who was on the lawn tailgating yesterday. I know it wasn't much, but they showed some on the news last night, and I was like, I don't know if you guys are just hardcore and I should salute you, or if you guys are just that dumb.
They wanted to beat traffic. That's why we used to do it. We used to want to beat traffic.
110 degrees. I don't know. Just walk inside and enjoy the AC, man.
Yeah, we got there at 6:15, 6:30 or so, and there was one tent left. Everybody else was packed up and probably inside. So.
Yeah, when they showed it, there was probably about 5 tents out, and that was probably a few hours before the game.
It's humid right now, too.
Wasn't a whole lot of people. This one guy was joking around the news I got a jacket in the car I'm about to go throw on. I don't know.
It's on a side note, for those of you going to a game, man, it's 115 outside. You go inside and you get a little chill.
I enjoy the chill because you get all that sweat built up. You get that chill. You're body hits in shock. But we'll tailgate week one when it's 101 degrees, not 105. I can't do that.
Right, and it's earlier in the day too. So, but Kyler Murray is the talk of the NFL today, Jason.
Yes, he is.
And I know when you saw him in practice, you were talking about how he holds onto the ball a little long. You thought. I listened back to that to get your wording on that, and you said he hangs onto the ball a little bit, but you said that he looked spectacular when he threw the ball in there. And first of all, let's start with the stats. He was 6 for 7, and his one incompletion was where the receiver stepped out of bounds before he caught
a penalty on it.
But it still counts as an incompletion, which let's talk about how dumb that is later. 44 passing yards, 85.7 completion percentage. He only played one drive. But what was your initial opinion of him now that you saw him in practice in there?
Most valuable player, baby.
I know,
Here we go. Now,
did you see my response? I was like, Super Bowl.
Hey, it wouldn't be far-fetched, I think, for Kyler to be in the Rookie of the Year talk.
Well, you're getting. That's what I want to talk about.
I don't know if I'm getting ahead, but it wouldn't be far-fetched to say that he would be a viable candidate for Rookie of the Year, depending on how the Cardinals do this year. Granted, I know a lot of people still have him at a 5-win team, but I thought last night he showed some good signs. He could be a leader of this team. He was throwing that ball in there with some zip from what it looked like to me. I don't know how it came across in person. I know TV in person always is something a little bit different, but I made some good plays.
Even that video that you posted saying he was MVP that was a heck of a play where he rolls out to his right.
Yeah, rolled out to the right.
And receiver gets wide open, and he just casually throws it, hits the receiver right between the numbers, and the rookie receiver messed up. Keyshawn Johnson, which on a side note, it's really weird hearing Keyshawn Johnson's name called all the time inside the stadium because I'm so used to his dad from back in the day.
Right.
So, you're overhyping him like everybody else. And I listened to some other radio stations today after I wrote down all my notes and everything, and man, everybody is just oh my gosh, future MVP and blah, blah, blah. So I will tell you this. Very vanilla defense by the Chargers.
Right.
Very vanilla offense by the Cardinals. No throw went past 9 yards, but I will tell you this.
There was no plays that were in Kingsbury offense that you saw last night.
I'll give you this. He looked like he was a 10-year veteran. Normally you see a rookie go out there, a little bit of butterflies. Even the first handoff's a little shaky, which his first play was a handoff to David Johnson. By the way, at the 2-yard line, so they're backed up. He's in shotgun. Looked like a grizzled old veteran. Normally you would be a little worried about a rookie back there. Nope. Second play is a pass. Casually drops back, throws the ball quickly, which, granted, that was practice where you said he held on to it a little too long. He was not holding the ball long. Those timing routes were timed perfect. He could throw the ball accurate. He threw the ball accurate. He threw the ball on time. Nothing rattled him. There was a couple times where DJ Humphries had one of those blocks where he basically stands up and turns around and says, "Watch out," because he doesn't even put anything on the guy. And Kyler Murray took the sack. Like there's nothing he could do. Didn't even look frazzled in that situation either. And so I was impressed with that side of him. It really was. And he rolled out. Now, lots of questions come to mind. Like, can he throw deep? How accurate is he when he throws deep, which we haven't seen yet.
Right.
But so first drive of the game against their very vanilla defense. They got him on third down, so they had a punt, things like that. But I'll tell you, man, it's for a rookie, my expectation, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I think the excitement for Cardinals fans going into this year is this is something we haven't seen. Last year, Josh Rosen didn't look all that great in preseason. Then they put him in a unfortunate circumstance.
Yes.
Tried to lead a game-winning drive against the Bears, I believe, last year at home, which wasn't going to pan out. And then the rest of the year just kind of was what it was with Rosen. And then, you got your guy now, and it's like, all right, let's see what this guy's all about. And it's just something that, being a Cardinals fan, you're not used to seeing because, last year we didn't get it, and that's how the NFL is. It changes week to week. In 8 weeks in the regular season, we'd be like, man, bring in Hundley. But right now, things are looking up for young Kyler Murray.
Well, my expectation, forgetting last year because it was a whole different regime. The offense was awful. The coaching was awful. I don't blame Rosen for it. I think Rosen's a pretty solid quarterback in this league, and he's going to do all right, given the right system and all that good stuff. He got kind of a raw deal here. But for what they've put together here with Kingsbury, even Cliff Kingsbury had his head in the game. We stayed till almost halfway through the fourth quarter just because I wanted to see the coach, how he coaches and all that stuff.
See all the rest of the players were involved.
And I didn't care about the players.
Well, I heard that was like a big thing last night in the press conference where they were talking to Kyler Murray about, how involved he was when he was out of the game. He's like, oh, yeah, just me and, Brett were talking, if he saw something that I didn't see or if I saw something that he didn't see, we're like, hey, man, did you see that?
And that's what I was going to talk to when we get to that. But, just in terms of Kyler Murray, to wrap a bow on that, I get why everybody in the media is super hyped. And I haven't even seen these plays they're talking about where he threads a needle and drops it in on a dime on somebody 30 yards downfield. I haven't even seen any of those. And I purposely am not going to see any practices because I want to see the game film.
Right.
And you know me better than anybody. And I do not get excited about a player. And I walked away last night like, this kid's something special.
Hey, 2 weeks ago, you're like, I don't know how many games I want to go to this year. Now you're like, let's go, everyone. What road trips are we taking, Steve?
I know, right? The one thing I will say is 5'10". I don't know what 5'10" is in real life. I'm 6'2", so 5'10" short to me. When he is on the field, surrounded by his linemen and whatnot, even his receivers, oh my God, he's short.
I saw somebody post a video yesterday of him coming out on the field for warm-ups, and somebody's like, Kyler Murray looks like a Make-A-Wish kid coming out in the field.
That was when they ran out of the tunnel. I saw that too. It was starkingly crazy how short he was. And I've never seen Drew Brees play in person because he was with the Chargers and then the Saints, and we don't get to see him very often. And maybe I have, but his height never has stood out to me.
Right.
And
because you see it on TV.
Yeah, on TV.
There, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I haven't seen him in person. I don't think I've had the opportunity where the Saints have been here with him. And I know the Chargers never were, but man, I wasn't even looking for it. It
stood out
when he was back there. The only thing that just worries me is the whole shotgun offense is you can't. But he ran his own read last night. perfectly to David Johnson. I mean, the linebacker backed out of the center, and he gave the ball to Johnson instead of keeping it. He rolled out when he needed to get to safety on that. And even his ball, when he rolls out, a lot of guys struggle with that throw, and he squared up and just put the ball right between the numbers. I don't think he had that one to Larry Fitzgerald where Larry was on the sideline, and he ran towards him a little bit, and then he just throws it to Larry, and Larry gets tackled by like 4 guys, was kind of an ill-advised throw, in terms of yardage, and you're going to get Larry killed if, on stuff like that. But I was just really impressed with them. Like I said, the only downside is just the vanilla offense. It was basically a dink
and dunk.
Dink and dunk. Wow. And then, just the whole defense of the Chargers. I don't even think they put a full blitz on. I just think some offensive linemen though. But
speaking of defense though, the Cardinals defense has some issues, I feel like.
Which I was just about to say. But I mean, very vanilla, right?
Right.
They didn't even I felt like it was a Pro Bowl defense. That first drive when the starters were in, it's like the ball was snapped and they all just stood up.
But still, I mean, you let the Chargers, they had a bunch of 1s and 2s in there. It was kind of, a mix and match of all those guys. And who was it? Austin Eckler?
Yes.
40 yards on 5 touches.
But he got the snot knocked out of him at the 4-yard line and fumbled the ball, and the Cardinals recovered. Right. So, on that drive, to be honest with you, I felt. And I didn't expect anything from. I was surprised Terrell Suggs and Chandler Jones was even starting. Like I was like, why are we even rolling those guys out there? Patrick Peterson should play every 4 preseason games since he has to sit out the first 4 games. But I was shocked they were even out there. But it's something like when they got down inside that 10-yard line, it's like the Cardinals defense was like, all right, let's see what we can do.
Right, the red zone looking good.
And they knocked the crap out of him, and he fumbled that ball, and they recovered it. So no, but defense is always ahead of the offense, but like you said, and they don't game plan. I felt like Taylor for the Chargers, who was playing last night for quarterback to start the game, is not the same offense they're going to be playing.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrod Taylor's a very different quarterback from Phillip Rivers, which is kind of shockingly that they got Tyrod Taylor. He throws a
pretty ball, though. He does. He throws a pretty ball. I can tell you that. But I mean, I agree with you on the defense. I was going to talk about that. I'd like to see the defense. They're going to play more next week against the Raiders here at home, and so I want to see. We'll talk about that in a minute here, but even on the second string, you know what? The Cardinals receiving core actually really impressed me. It's got Larry Fitzgerald and a bunch of rookies, and you got Kevin White, who is injured again.
Not making the team.
Yeah,
he's inactive.
He's injured again with a hamstring. He's always injured. So. But they're going to keep. I think they're saying they're going to keep 7 receivers. They made an offer to Crabtree, and he turned it down, thinking he's going to get something else. But he might still show up here, and he'd be a serviceable 4th receiver right now.
Well, a guy who definitely showed up last night was Trent Sherfield.
Absolutely.
Who looked stunningly in his debut last night.
Stunningly.
Remarkable.
Yes.
He was a favorite target last night for both Murray and Hundley.
Yes. But even, like I said, Keyshawn Johnson had some really... You couldn't see it on television. I watched a few of the highlights, from people from the television feed, and you couldn't see it there, but you could see it on the field and at the game. And he got uncovered so quick against their starting defensive cornerbacks. I mean, that one play where he stepped out of bounds and came back in, that defensive back had no idea where he was. He was running in circles trying to figure out where he was out there. So I mean, they're going to be young. You got Larry in there, of course, and they're going to be young. But the receiving corps really stepped up. This is the first time for the Cardinals. They've always had high hopes for the receivers. This is the first time where I'm like, wow. Because even Brett Hundley, I mean, you said he didn't look good in that practice, but I thought he looked good.
Yeah, he looked pretty decent.
He throws a pretty ball. That touchdown pass was spectacular, how he dropped that into that corner end zone. Problem was, man, he got hit a lot, and that's not a good sign. I know it's second string offensive line, but he got hit a lot out there. And if Kyler Murray's getting hit like that, I don't know about it.
And that's the thing, like going into this preseason, you want to see more out of the offensive line. You want the offensive line to play a little bit more. You're already down your starting left guard with Justin Pugh being out. So I mean, really.
Yeah, but you got Mason Cole filling in that spot because he was vying for the center spot, but it takes away from center depth. But you're right.
So, I mean, I think really going into the preseason, leading up to the season with that offensive line that you have right now is one, let's minimize the hits on our quarterbacks because we need those guys to be serviceable for 16 games this year. And right now it just doesn't look like that's going to be the case going into the season. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting, and that's why I'm holding out judgment because, we're seeing nothing yet. Third preseason game, we're going to see a lot more. It's going to be closer to what we're going to see regular season, but I'm really looking forward to game one of the regular season against the Lions because the Lions don't look like they're very good, preseason or not, and that's going to be the game where they got to come out and show something and start showing stuff. But before we get to that, I mean, just the conclusion from last night's game, man, like I said, I'm impressed with Kyler Murray. Hope it keeps growing. We'll see. I'm looking forward to this week's game because, one, the starting defense will be on the field a little bit more, so we'll be able to see how they actually work. They won't be blitzing and running their stunts like they're going to be doing in the regular season, but they will be, out there a little bit longer on those drives, be able to shut them down. We get to see Kyler Murray actually come back out for a second drive because a lot will change, obviously, with the defense from the first drive to the second drive, and he's got to be able to react and adjust to that. He should play probably, a whole quarter coming up.
Yeah, I think he'd play a whole quarter in the second preseason game, and that's another thing that stood out to me last night. He was like, in his press conference, he said he asked Coach, he's like, Coach, are you sure we're done? Like, do we have to be done? Like, he wanted to go back out there and try to score. Like, that's the one glaring hole that you get from that. All the detractors like, oh, well, you didn't score last night. And Brett Hundley, got a touchdown pass in. How come Kyler didn't? It's like, well, he was only out there for one drive. And
well, then it's not his fault there's penalties.
Yeah, vanilla offense or vanilla defense. I mean, still, it's only one drive. Guys' first snaps and game action. And he even said that the speed of the game, the pace of play wasn't an issue either.
No, he looked. I guess that's kind of what I was getting at. Was, man, he looked like a grizzled veteran in there, where he was not intimidated. The speed did not he was throwing the ball on time. He was throwing the ball. There was one play where he threw the ball before the receiver did his curl, and that guy turned around. The ball was right there. Rookies don't generally do that.
Right.
They're afraid to unload it because of what's going to be there. But that is one nice thing is he wanted to go back out there. You're right, curtail it. Let's see where we go and everything. But that's the other thing is you can see his enthusiasm down there, and it's just the team rallies around him. So that's the exciting thing is we basically have our leader in there now, where the team rallies around him. And even like you said, him and Brett Hundley, you could see them working together. And. Let's see where we go this weekend with the Raiders coming to town. The Raiders are, from what I saw, are playing. They're not playing their full defense, but they're going after guys. John Gruden is putting a system in, and they're playing out there. So
no Antonio Brown as of right now. Not too sure what's going on with that. Seems like a weird pickup if you're come off a frostbite, then to go into I'm not going to play and if I don't wear my helmet.
Well, at first it was they couldn't get a hold of him for a day and a half, and now he's informed him he's not going to play unless he gets his whole helmet back. That's outlawed by the league, not by the Raiders. So. Right. Antonio Brown's a whole nother subject. I mean, there's a reason nobody wanted him, including Pittsburgh, except for the Raiders. So, so just some quick takeaways here from the game last night going into this season. We'll definitely like to hear anybody's feedback or what they thought about the game.
Yeah, definitely. I think, looking forward to the rest of the preseason. Obviously, game 2, like you said, probably see Kyler Murray in there for at least a full quarter. So we might get 2 drives, depending on how it goes. I mean, how long drives last in preseason, and like you said, the dink and dunk offense.
That first quarter last night went by quick.
Right, so you might not get a whole handful of drives, so you could see him maybe a little bit of the second quarter, and I think definitely in the third game he gets at least the first half, and we'll see after that, and then
comes back out after halftime.
Right, and then fourth game. Don't know if they're going to play him or not, just because, I mean, usually that's the game you sit the starters, but Kyler Murray does kind of need some reps too. So
do the young receivers.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where we'll see what kind of goes on in the fourth game, but I think we know what we're looking at going into a game 2 and 3 of the preseason.
Timing isn't an issue, so the timing has worked out between these guys. It's more of just a rep, so we can see things. But one thing really quick to go back to is, you said that a lot of people were upset he didn't score or whatever. I mean, the expectation levels need to be set right. I mean, he went in with the ball on the 2-yard line out of a shotgun position. It took him to approximately the 40-yard line with penalties and everything.
Yeah, he got the field position back. It was a long drive,
so he flipped the field.
Yeah.
As a fan, I get it. You want touchdowns, you want field goals to get points, but if that happens in a real game and he's able to just do that at a bare minimum and then pass it off to that defense, I think that defense is going to be back in the top 5 of defense after taking a break last year from that. Especially when they get Patrick Peterson back after the 4th game. So if he can just at a minimum do that this year and flip the field back and give our defense a chance to give him the ball earlier spot, I think we're in a win-win situation. I'm not saying we're going to win 10 games and go to the Super Bowl, but 12 games and go to the Super Bowl, but if he can at least do that, that's what I was most impressed with, was a rookie, took the ball at the 2, drove it as far as he could with penalties, everything. Because a lot of time those drives stall on the 10-yard line.
Right.
And that's what was impressed with me. So going forward, we'll see. Opinions can change next week. I don't get too high or too low on these games. But definitely I was super impressed, which that's kind of why the idea to do this little podcast here was it takes a lot to impress me sometimes.
It does definitely take a lot to impress you.
It did.
Especially where we were at 2 weeks ago when you're like, so you want to go to these preseason games? How many regular season games you want to go to? I don't want to go to many. And now here you are, man. You're already setting the road trip. Let's go.
Get my playoff tickets ready.
I like it. But no, make sure you give us a follow. Always talking sports and whatnot. You can hit up Steve at SMAC500. That's SMAC 500, and then you hit me up at Jason Carter 03 as well on the dial. And we love talking sports, whether it be football, baseball, hockey, basketball, racing, wrestling.
Yeah, check out
whatever. We talk it all. We have opinions.
So check out this Cardinals Rewind special edition every week after the game. We'll try to have it out the day after the game, even if we have to call in for it, just to get it out, kind of, like I said, go from there. We like to hear interactions with everybody. And, of course, check out the Main Event podcast as well. Comes out every Wednesday or Thursday of every week. And that'll encompass everything.
All right. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.